navigating grief, honoring loss, and finding healing. I am no grief expert in terms of someone came to me who has experienced grief in their life, but I'm definitely one of those people that has experienced quite a lot of grief in the last few years. And it's around about a year since the most incredible woman that I have ever met, my mum might have something to say about that, my wife passed away. And just a few years before that, my mum passed away, and just a few years before that, my father passed away. So in 5 years, I lost three of the most important, influential people in my life. And I think it's really important to know how to navigate through grief. I'm someone who helps people navigate the future in their life. I'm a coach. I've dedicated my life to helping people identify their future version of themselves. In fact, I've always said in the coaching relationships I have with people is that let's think about this relationship like there's three of us. There's me, there's you, and there's the person that you can become. When I used to work with athletes, I'm sure you can imagine how important it is for an athlete to know that where they are is not where they need to be. They need to become someone else, and that's what we work towards them becoming. And over recent years, any of you that have followed my work, you know that this concept around future self and where you are isn't who you are, and being able to rise up out of the circumstances that you find yourself in is one of the greatest things that any human being will do. But when it comes to grief, there's no straight line for it. And I navigated and still navigating through the most challenging season of my life through people that have helped me. In fact, when I knew that my wife was really not going to live, when it became really evident, when I had to accept the fact that she was going to pass away, I needed help. And I started working with a therapist who specialized in grief and loss. And I'm so glad that I did, because it helped me understand how to move through this period in life. And I never forget some of the things she said to me. One of them was, please understand that Hannah will be able to hear you right until the end. So keep talking to her. And that made a huge difference, because I kept talking to my wife. And if I hadn't have known that, I might have stopped, because I thought, well, what's the point? She can't hear me. When she was in the hospice, just in those last few days, I never stopped talking to her. I never stopped telling her that she was loved, and she is loved. I said that over and over and over and over again. My point around navigating grief, I suppose, is to first understand that grief is an inevitable part of life, but yet it's something that very few of us really talk about. And because we don't really talk about it, when it happens, we can really feel isolated. We can really feel alone. And it can be really hard to move on. It can be really hard to find healing. But I want to share with you some of what I have been able to do. When it comes to grief, I never forget someone else I knew just said, look, you need to understand it takes time. Like people say, time is the greatest healer. I think it can be a great healer. But when your life is so wrapped up in someone else's life, and then all of a sudden that's not there anymore, it can take time for the brain to remap itself, to rewire itself, so that you're not thinking and triggered all the time to think that person is in your life. And I never forget what someone else said to me. They said, Pete, you need to understand that a part of you has died as well. The part of you that was married to this person. And again, that's something I had to grieve. It was something I had to accept. It was something I had to allow myself to move on from, to allow myself to feel. And I think this is another key aspect of healing through grief, is to allow yourself to feel whatever comes up. In fact, today has been quite a challenging day. I think it's because tomorrow I have 2 friends that are running the London Marathon in honour of my wife. They're raising money for the hospice that my wife spent the last few days of her life in. And again, I'm sure I'm just being triggered to remember some of that and some of the emotion that I know I'm going to experience tomorrow when they run the London Marathon. And the fact that the hospice has brought out its magazine and it's featuring me and my wife. As I have shared with people what an amazing place this hospice is and how locally we should all be supporting this place, because if we don't end up there, someone we know is. And this is really the main point. It's finding a reason to move on, to live in memory of the people that have passed away. My wife's motto was, just get on with it. That was her motto. My wife was never a victim of where she was. Diagnosed in 2011, given a little time to live, she still wanted to rise up out of where she was. Now, I suppose with grief, rising up out of it, I'd say part of it is allowing yourself to experience it and know that in time things will get better. But it's going to, for me, it's been a lot easier because I found a reason to keep moving on. And part of that is part of her honouring who she was, the woman that said, just get on with it. And I just want to get on with improving my life. I felt sorry for myself for a long time. Why me? This is so difficult. This is so hard. I sought comfort in food. My health was starting to struggle. And I just woke up to the reality one day, this is not what my wife would want. And when I think of my mum and my dad, and I've been thinking about them a lot quite recently, I think this is because I am just healing more and more.
Violins begin to play, or it might be the sound of your hello. The moment you're near, I get misty. The moment
I didn't really have a chance to really grieve the loss of my dad and my mum, and I think now I'm wrapped up in this kind of grief and really realizing that where I am in my life right now, it's a new era, it's a new time, and I want to do my wife proud. I want to just get on with improving my health. I want to just get on with inspiring people all over the world to move into things that are difficult and move through them. I want to inspire more people to be empowered about where they are in their life right now. And I know none of this is easy. I know that when you lose someone or something that you love, it's going to hurt. Humans, we're very much creatures of attachment. We're very much a creatures of our tribes. And I also now know that other people who have experienced grief have come to me, and I'm fairly equipped to just be in their space. Sometimes not even say anything, but knowing that my presence makes a difference because of what I've been through. And I think ultimately, life isn't about becoming. It's not. I think it's about overcoming. And I hope that through you watching this, maybe it will give you a different perspective of dealing with grief. And maybe you've already experienced some grief in your life. And if you haven't, you're going to. And my real point for making this, finding healing, I'd say, is your ability to allow yourself to feel upset, to allow the different stages that people talk about through grief, to allow yourself to move through those. And I would encourage you to seek counsel, to speak to people who can help you, to allow yourself to talk about how you're feeling. This is incredibly cathartic, just making this video, knowing that people I know might watch it, but people who have never met me before might watch it, and it might open their mind up to looking at grief with a fresh pair of eyes, maybe even to talking to people about what might happen. One of my friends just passed away recently, and the funeral was so moving because he died maybe before his time, definitely. He was in his same age as me. And he said, because what was read out in his eulogy was his words. He had given those eulogy to his wife, and his wife read it out. It was so moving. And one of the things he said is that he wanted to be an example to his other friends who might have to experience something like he had experienced, and that he had been a good example to them. I thought, wow. And once again, I want to honor him. And he represented to me friendship. That was the other message which really came through in the eulogies that his brother spoke as well, just about friendship and living in his honor. Living in his honor, friendship. Living in my dad's honor, as my dad always said, son, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So every time I get to know new people, I'm keeping the spirit of my dad alive. My mum, always, there's an answer to everything. She showed me that. In me being who I am and helping and trying to help people find answers to the problems and challenges that they face. Every time I do that, I'm keeping the spirit of my mum alive. And with my wife, every time I just get on with it. Every time I limit the conversation in my head, the debating society that I might have sometimes about doing something and not doing something, the more I just get on with something, the more I'm keeping the spirit of my wife alive. And maybe in your life right now, who knows, there's something that you want to just get on with. Grief is an inevitable part of life. Navigating through it, I suppose, is knowing that it's going to come. But being prepared for it, I think it's quite difficult to prepare for it. But maybe talking to people about it who have experienced it and finding out how they did it. Finding healing for me is allowing yourself to feel and giving yourself time, but also finding a reason to carry on. Finding a reason to live in that person's memory. And when I've seen what some people have done all over the world, they've started movements, they've started foundations on the back of other people's lives. So I want to thank you for watching this video, and please feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you have taken away from this. If I can help you in some way, shape or form, then ask. You know, and my dad also said, you don't ask, you don't get. I appreciate you, and I want to take a moment to say happy, beautiful day. And every time I say that, I'm also keeping the spirit of my wife alive. Take care, much love, and thank you for watching.